feel now we've reached where we need to be. We've managed to get the law changed between us all, not just me. I know I led it, but obviously this was a whole, this was owned by everybody, really. I didn't have anybody, certainly from the public or the media, who had any kind of qualms with it or could see any reason why it shouldn't happen.
You've had a fantastic team behind you. You've mentioned that already, and I know that Michael's friends have just been so involved with all of this too. That must mean so much to you. And I know, obviously, it was about a year ago now, wasn't it, that you went to Bristol? And you had that trip down there. How did you find that helped to support you, and did you feel like it gave you a sense of how much support the campaign has across the country?
I did. I mean, sadly, I had to go and see another grieving mum who'd lost her daughter in the crash, and her son-in-law, and I actually went down with Paul Doward from Radio City. It was a really, really tough journey. I'm glad I had him with me, really, because I'm not sure I could have done it on my own. I felt that what we did, we had a shared experience. I felt that she herself somehow was going to get some justice for her daughter and her son-in-law as a result of the campaign. But that was my worst nightmare, because when I started on this campaign, that is what I'd said. I never want to be looking another mum, particularly, in the eyes who's gone through the same thing as me. And then it was almost like my worst nightmare had come true, having to do that. And I mean, usually I can keep composed. I completely broke down in that interview. So it was just too hard to see the pain in her eyes and know exactly what she'd gone through, and her explaining when she went into the inquest. I remember that. I mean, it haunts me, going in thinking, what on earth is happening? I can't. Why is this legal? Why are they bringing this back as accidental death? I just couldn't get my head around any of it. So
you mentioned about having to look another mum in the eyes after she'd gone through the same thing as you. Do you take some reassurance in the hope that you'll never have to do that from this point on? That it's now law. It was a little bit too late for her, but you did everything that you could. Mm-hmm. Do you take some reassurance knowing that hopefully there's no reason for this to happen again?
Yeah, I do, because I remember looking at this woman and thinking, had I not done anything at all, had I heard this story, not done anything at all, and sat back and just let it happen, I don't really know how I'd have lived with myself, to be honest. But so, knowing that it's never going to happen again, or it should never happen again, and if it does happen again, the consequences now are, it is actually illegal, and people, if they do it, they are, they will be breaking the law. Yeah, it does, absolutely. I would never wish this on anybody. It wouldn't, it's just a life of pain. And, even with the happiness, my eldest son, Joe, got married last year, which was probably the happiest day of my life since I had them. But obviously it's filled with pain, because, his brother's not there, and we all felt it. And so, yeah, it does give me that reassurance, and I would never ever want to do that again. I never want to go and look another mum in the eyes and see that she's lost any child, but to something that was so preventable.
You've reached your goal. You've done what you set out to do. What do you think that Michael would make of all of this? The fact that you've done it, do you think that he'd be surprised that you set out to do it? Do you think he'd say, "Oh, that's mum to a T"? Like, what do you think he'd make of it all?
I think he'd probably say that's mum to a T. Because all, my other boys said the same. They wouldn't have expected anything less. I know Michael, if he was here and if he'd survived the crash, I know Michael would have been pushing me to asking me anyway, saying, we need to get involved. If he'd have lost a friend on that crash, he was the type who couldn't have sat back. I know that. He would have definitely had to do something, knowing he'd lost somebody, and it didn't need to happen. So yeah, I think he would know. I always felt that, one of the things with grief is it's very personal to you. and it's all based on your own belief systems. And I do firmly believe that I can feel him at times, and there are things I get and I just think, yeah, you know, somebody with that much energy and that much life can't just go, you know, his energy must stay somewhere. I have to believe that. So I do feel as if there's been parts of me where, yeah, I think he knows, and he wanted something, and I feel like I've at least got a tiny bit of justice for him. He's never going to get the justice he deserves, but I've done something.